So in this video, I want to talk to you about trauma bonding and the fearful avoidant attachment style. So if you're not already familiar too much with the term trauma bonding, it's essentially a psychological phenomenon that occurs when an individual forms a strong emotional attachment to someone who is abusive, manipulative, or harmful to them. It's often associated with abusive relationships, but can also occur in situations where there is a power imbalance or just other forms of emotional manipulation. And it can be particularly relevant to fearful avoidant attachment styles in a number of different ways. So, this is the terminology according to the American Psychological Association, and we are going to talk a little bit about the different ways that this often happens with fearful avoidant attachment styles and also the roots. And at the end of this video, if you stick around till the end, we'll talk about something that you can do to get out of this painful dynamic. So, first and foremost, I think it's really important to recognize that one of the three most major factors that drives attraction for us in our lives is our subconscious comfort zone in the relationship to ourselves. And where your relationship to yourself is largely formed and most impacted by is your childhood and the way that relationships were modeled to you. So, as an example, I often like to think that we take on essentially the relationship to ourselves through the way that we were treated in childhood. If you were somebody who was constantly criticized or were put down or were exposed to a whole bunch of different chaos or chaotic remarks, often children internalize the behaviors that they saw. And unfortunately, more of an emphasis on the negative behaviors. And I'm going to just sort of go down a rabbit hole here for a moment, but we actually store negative things more than positive things statistically because it's a survival mechanism. Like if you're walking in the forest and you see a bear, the next day when you're recalling, how you saw the bear, you don't remember the tree next to the bear. You remember the bear's teeth, right? Because your subconscious is trying to hang on to the more negative things so it can protect you from them. But unfortunately, we can also internalize a lot of these things more often as a result. So a lot of times what happens is a fearful avoidant in their childhood, and this can also happen as a result of past relationships in a person's adult life. But if you were exposed to like chaos, unpredictability, these sorts of dynamics, this forms the relationship that you have to yourself. Meaning, if you were exposed to criticism, you're probably self critical. If you were exposed to your boundaries being violated, you probably violate your own boundaries. If you were exposed to dynamics where there's a lot of instability and chaos, you may actually have these really strong patterns of instability and chaos in your life that are a part of your normal, right? A part of your comfort zone, a part of what feels familiar to you. And so oftentimes, when we look at trauma bonds do not necessarily have to be these like super abusive relationships. I would definitely call trauma bonding something that exists along a continuum, but there can be things like reactive abuse that plays a role in trauma bonds. There can be things like emotional abuse, or there can be things like just really unhealthy and kind of chaotic dynamics that take place in relationships because of a person's subconscious comfort zone. And so if you grow up in chaos, it's what you know. I can't tell you how many fearful avoidants I've had conversations with who, until they actually really did a lot of attachment style healing, said things like, if things are too secure or too safe or too easy, I get bored too easily, or I want to run in another direction, or, stability and stable, healthy, consistent love, it doesn't feel as appealing to me. It feels like something that doesn't feel quite right. Something's off. I lose attraction. Like I've had countless conversations with fearful avoidance like this over and over and over again. And it's because we tend to not be attracted to things that are outside of that subconscious comfort zone of what we know and what's familiar to us. So you'll see different dynamics. And I also want to say, like, sort of different symptoms of trauma bonds that you may see is somebody in a position where they are constantly having this like big roller coaster of emotions in their relationship and roller coaster of behaviors. We may see also in trauma bonding dynamics that there can be these really escalated arguments or heated fights. Or we can see dynamics where, somebody can feel constantly confused and actually have such a chaotic relationship that it's difficult for them to focus on their life's daily activities. Like the relationship gets in the way of like you showing up for work, or gets in the way of you being able to still maintain your friendships or maintain the relationships to your family members. So you may see these sort of symptoms of these really chaotic relationship dynamics. And All of these things are important to pay attention to. So when you look at how trauma bonds form, as you can probably see so far, we have this chaos. That chaos, it becomes internalized and largely creates the relationship that you have to yourself, and also creates at a subconscious level, as a result of that, what you're kind of looking for and willing to invest in terms of relationships with others. And you may see that chaos feels like it's exciting, or chaos feels like it's novelty, or keeps you walking on eggshells, or on your toes. But those are not always signs of a healthy relationship. Sometimes the things we're drawn to or attracted to, we can consciously evaluate and kind of see the difference between, the big roller coaster of a relationship. Like, that may be what appeals to me, but is that something that's truly healthy? Is that something I should want to be looking for at this stage of life? Right. And so when you can take a look at that and just first consciously unpack it, you can start to realize, okay, maybe I am in a trauma bond. Maybe I am in this sort of dynamic where this relationship has become really toxic or unhealthy, or these big escalated fights. And then we can talk about what you can actually do. Now, if you are seeing these cycles of trauma bonding, you may also see that, it represents essentially unresolved trauma that you are carrying at a subconscious level first. And I'm definitely not saying it's like your fault for being in a trauma bond at all. It's literally the result of past experiences being imprinted on your subconscious. And that's something that's probably, when you had those past experiences, completely out of your control. But the good news is that because these are things that are happening in the relationship to self, these are things that um, are changeable, right? We can recondition these things. We're not born with these patterns. And so we can change them by understanding the same mechanisms through which they got conditioned into us. And another thing I just want to say here as well is, like, when we look at trauma bonding, sometimes part of the reason we stay in a trauma bond is because we are afraid to let go. We are afraid of, what it means to be on our own. We are afraid to, go through a breakup and feel those feelings of abandonment, or feel those feelings of betrayal if somebody, breaks up and is with somebody else. Like, sometimes part of why people hold on are not for reasons based in truth, but more reasons based in fear. And if that's the case, these are things we have to consciously evaluate, right? You don't want to be making your life's decisions about relationship dynamics that are, our romantic relationships rub off on us arguably more than any other relationship. So we want those decisions to be based in truth, based in, like, I'm happy in this situation. This is in alignment with me. This is what I truly want at a deep level, not, okay, I'm going to stick it out and stay in this because I'm just afraid of letting go or dealing with the pain of letting go. So when we're trying to really overcome a trauma bond, this is a really hard exercise. I'm not going to lie. But this is something that's very valuable to go through. And it looks like this. It looks like writing out the different things about your relationship that feel traumatizing to you right now. And it doesn't mean unpacking all the actual memories, but writing out the different patterns. So for example, somebody being really critical or really harsh, somebody violating your boundaries, somebody being in a position where they break your trust or there are broken promises, somebody being in a position where they push you away and give you all these mixed signals, somebody shaming you, minimizing your feelings all the time. I want you to write out the things that you see. And, taking it a step further, I want you to take a look at, you can almost make this into a chart, like write all the things that you have on one column. And in the next column, I want you to score yourself from 1 to 10 at how much you do these things in the relationship to yourself, how much I shame myself, minimize my own feelings, disconnect from my feelings. I'm not consistent in how I show up and support myself, violate my own boundaries. Like, I want you to take a look and see where you're doing these things to yourself. And then, okay, and there's a lot more to this exercise. So hold on for a second. And then I want you in a third column to write what you can do to stop doing this on a daily basis in the relationship to self. Okay. And again, this is not me saying that this is your fault at all. This is me saying that these things were done to you. They formed a subconscious comfort zone. And until we change them within ourselves, unfortunately, we're likely to stay investing in these things with others. So that's the first exercise. It's an awareness exercise, and also writing out different behaviors for change. And then we want to practice one behavior a day. We want to leverage repetition and emotion to start reprogramming what's comfortable, what's familiar to us, into a new zone of familiarity that's based in health and self support. And then number two, I want you to write out, if you're in a trauma bond, all of the costs of staying in this relationship right now, within 2 years, within 5 years. Okay. and really writing out like, what is this doing to you? And a huge question I would always get clients to ask themselves when they were stuck in a trauma bond is I would say, on a daily basis, how do you actually feel? Because sometimes when somebody's in a trauma bond relationship, they are so far away from themselves. They're so focused on the other person, so fixated on the relationship that they're not in their body. They're not connected to what they're actually feeling. Like, how does your relationship feel to be in? And that can be something you write in the cost column, right? And in this, so we've got the first chart with those three columns. Now we're going into the costs and the benefits of leaving, costs of staying. And sometimes one of the big costs is like, I actually am unhappy on a daily basis. I'm sort of in this miserable space. So I want you to write out as many costs as you can of staying and as many benefits as you can of leaving something that's not serving you if it's not changing. And doing this will help reposition these subconscious positive versus negative emotional associations. Unfortunately, we stay in things or addicted to things because we originally got programmed to see way more good than bad in that situation. Think of your initial imprints of the relationship. Maybe they were so good and you're afraid to lose, these original imprints you developed about what the relationship is at a subconscious level, what it meant to you. But as a result of that programming, sometimes those programs can actually filter out the red flags, all the painful information about how you actually feel on a daily basis, what's not working, what's unhealthy. So we have to kind of rebalance those emotional associations at a subconscious level. And we do that through writing them out and then rereading them so that we can leverage the repetition of that over time. And this should usually help people kind of see the relationship more clearly instead of through this lens of like the bonding part of the trauma bond, and help them to sort of break that bond if it's not serving them and if it's been really unhealthy, and especially if these things are not changing. And it's a really important exercise to go through. And then as we start looking at how we can change the subconscious comfort zone in the relationship to ourselves, it can really take us a step further on our healing journey. So I just wanted to stop by here and let you know a really exciting announcement, and is that we are doing $1,000 off of our lifetime memberships to the Personal Development School for Life. So I will tell you what's actually included in there. Number one, you get access to all of our different 60 plus courses, everything about every single attachment style, how to reprogram, how to heal. We have courses in there about the 6 stages of relationships and how to navigate each stage. We have courses in there about how to get back together or heal relationships between different attachment styles and all of the steps for reconnecting. And we have all sorts of other courses on boundaries, conflict communication, setting and achieving goals at the subconscious level, seeing how attachment styles even show up in your workplace and how to navigate some of those different dynamics and heal those aspects of your attachment style. There's so many courses in there. But number 2 feature that we have, daily social support groups. So these are small groups that are all included in the lifetime membership. And we do daily events, sometimes even twice a day, where there will be, 10 people or so led by a trained counselor, coach, or facilitator. And you can actually join in there and practice some of the different tools with other members. It's a great place to build relationships, connect with like-minded people, and to really fast track your learning and have that extra support all the time. And number 3, we have daily webinars Monday through Saturday. I do 3 of those webinars every single week. That's a time to come in, ask me your questions. You can come in on camera and we can chat. You can come in off camera and just post them in the chat, whatever you're most comfortable doing. And we have other amazing counselors, coaches, facilitators who also lead other webinars. And again, those are slightly larger groups of people, but it's a great opportunity to connect with like-minded learners who also care about the same things: emotional connection, relationships, and personal growth. So I hope you check it out. We also have all these different discussion forums in there. We have a Facebook group so you can connect with each other there as well. And there's a tremendous amount of community support in an ongoing way at PDS. So I would love to see you on the other side. I hope you join me. And now we'll go back to the video. So thank you for watching. If you want to see more content like this about painful relationships, abusive relationship dynamics, trauma bonding, how to heal from these things, where they come from, anything along this line, please give me a thumbs up for this video. And I will be sure to create more content like this, or feel free to post any comments or questions you have for future content in the comments down below. And I will take a look and see what other video suggestions you have. Thank you for watching. If you are enjoying this channel, please consider liking, sharing, and subscribing. And I can't wait to see you in future videos.